Part 1. The unspoken threats to peace in old age. There is a subtle shift that happens as we grow older, not just in our bodies but in our emotional landscape. The things that once demanded our energy, career ambitions, social obligations, endless errands start to lose their hold. In their place arises a different need, quieter but more profound, the need for peace. For many seniors, peace becomes the most sacred currency. It's not simply about silence or solitude. It's about emotional clarity. It's about protecting one's inner world after a lifetime of giving, enduring, and surviving. But achieving this peace isn't just about choosing serene environments. It's also about choosing, or rather unchoosing, the people we surround ourselves with. It's a difficult truth, but an essential one. There are certain types of people, yes, even family, you must distance yourself from in old age if you want to preserve your health, your dignity, and your joy. These relationships, if left unexamined, can silently corrode the final decades of your life, robbing you of the very grace you deserve. Let's explore 5 categories of individuals whose presence in your life, however familiar, can become deeply toxic in your later years. 1. Chronic complainers. The emotional polluters. They never celebrate. They never affirm. They never encourage. The chronic complainers are those who seem permanently tuned to life's negatives. Even the simplest joys, a sunny day, a warm meal, a kind gesture, are met with skepticism, sarcasm, or dismissal. When you were younger, you may have had the bandwidth to tolerate them. Perhaps you chalked up their negativity to personality quirks or assumed they were just going through something. But as you age, the stakes change. Your emotional resilience isn't infinite, and the time you spend absorbing complaints is time you'll never get back. What makes chronic complainers especially dangerous for seniors is the slow erosion of optimism they cause. Their gloom can become contagious. You may begin to internalize their criticisms. Your gratitude may feel naive in their presence. Over time, their voice becomes an echo in your own mind, challenging your joy, your confidence, even your sense of worth. Solution: set clear emotional boundaries. Limit the time spent engaging in circular, pessimistic conversations. Reframe your interactions, redirect the topic towards something positive, or gently excuse yourself when the complaints begin. You are not obligated to emotionally babysit someone who refuses to look for light. 2. The manipulators, masters of emotional leverage. Manipulation in old age is often far more subtle than we imagine. It doesn't always come with raised voices or overt control. In fact, the most dangerous manipulators are those who operate quietly, almost lovingly. They use your kindness as currency, pressing emotional buttons they know all too well. You always used to help me. I don't know what I'd do without you. You're the only one I trust with this. At first glance, these words sound innocent, even flattering. But the underlying intention is to bend your will. Over time, your personal boundaries become blurred. You find yourself saying yes when your body aches to say no. You make sacrifices you can't afford of your energy, your money, your time, all in the name of love. The elderly are especially vulnerable to manipulation because we often carry a deep sense of duty. Duty to our children, duty to family, duty to the people we've helped shape. But duty without discernment becomes a trap. Solution: develop and communicate firm boundaries. Recognize when a request becomes a pattern of dependency. Ask yourself, if I say no, will this person respect me or punish me emotionally? If the answer is the latter, it's time to reevaluate the relationship's place in your life. 3. The disrespectful. The subtle saboteurs of dignity. Disrespect doesn't always shout, it often whispers. It's in the eye rolls when you share your opinion. It's in the interruptions when you speak. It's in decisions made without consulting you, even when they concern your life. Some family members, especially adult children or younger relatives, begin to treat elders not as people, but as inconveniences to manage. They may speak over you, ignore your input, or act as if your ideas are outdated. Their tone suggests impatience. Their choices suggest disregard. Disrespect in later life is not just insulting, it is damaging. It creates an atmosphere where you begin to question your own voice. You hesitate to share. You doubt your memory. You second-guess your thoughts. In some cases, this can even contribute to emotional withdrawal and cognitive decline. Solution: don't allow proximity to excuse poor treatment. Whether it's your son, your spouse, or your sibling, anyone who consistently undermines your dignity must be confronted. You can do so gently but firmly. Express how their behavior makes you feel and what kind of interaction you expect moving forward. You don't owe anyone silence in exchange for companionship. 4. The envious hidden threats behind smiles. Envy is a quiet poison. It rarely announces itself, but its symptoms are unmistakable. The friend who withdraws when good things happen in your life, the relative who offers backhanded compliments, the acquaintance who subtly downplays your accomplishments. In old age, envy often appears as resentment of your peace. There are people who consciously or unconsciously resent the fact that you've come to terms with your life, that you've found joy in simplicity, that you are no longer chasing approval. Your presence challenges their unresolved turmoil. Instead of being inspired by your calm, they attempt to disrupt it, not through open conflict, but through subtle sabotage. They'll change the subject when you share good news. They'll remind you of your flaws when you express pride. Over time, you'll find yourself shrinking, editing your joy to avoid triggering their insecurity. Solution: envy is not your burden to bear. Do not water down your blessings to soothe someone else's discontent. Instead, invest in relationships that celebrate your light, not resent it. Pay attention to how people react when you're happy. That's when their true feelings are revealed. Chapter 5. The time wasters. The thieves of precious moments. There is no greater illusion in youth than the belief that time is endless. But in old age, the truth becomes beautifully sharp. Time is sacred. That's why people who waste it through shallow conversation, hollow presence, or constant distraction become more than just nuisances. They become threats to your spiritual well-being. These are the people who never listen when you speak, who show up physically but not emotionally, who fill the room with noise but offer nothing meaningful. You leave their presence feeling drained, unheard, and unseen. At this stage in life, every hour holds value. Every conversation is an opportunity to connect, to heal, to remember, or to laugh. Giving that time to those who treat it carelessly is a disservice to yourself. Solution: be unapologetically selective. Decline invitations that don't nourish you. Avoid interactions that leave you empty. Choose depth over habit, presence over performance. Surround yourself with those who listen when you speak and speak when your soul needs it most. Part 2. Setting boundaries. Reclaiming peace and embracing. Selective relationships. Old age should not be defined by retreat, but by refinement. As you leave behind the frenzy of earlier decades, you gain something far more precious than busyness: clarity. With clarity comes the responsibility to protect your peace, your time, and your energy. And that starts with recognizing your right to set boundaries, especially when it comes to the 5 types of people we explored in part 1. But awareness alone is not enough. The challenge many seniors face is not in identifying harmful relationships, it's in taking action. So let's go deeper. How do you protect yourself without becoming isolated? How do you create emotional distance without burning bridges? And how do you cultivate a social circle that uplifts rather than drains? Let's begin with what often feels like the hardest step: rewriting your internal narrative. You are not obligated to suffer for loyalty. For most people, especially those raised in traditional or close-knit families, loyalty is deeply ingrained. We're taught that love means endurance. That family means forever. That blood is thicker than peace. But here's the truth that becomes clearer. With age, loving someone does not mean accepting mistreatment. It does not mean enabling manipulation, tolerating disrespect, or sacrificing your mental health in the name of keeping the peace. You are not abandoning your values by setting limits. In fact, you are honoring them by insisting that love must come with mutual respect. This shift requires a new mindset, one in which you give yourself permission to say, I can love you and still say no. I can pray for you and still keep my distance. I can support you, but not at the cost of my own well-being. This internal permission is the foundation of healthy boundaries in old age. Practical boundaries, what they look like in real life. Let's now turn these principles into practice. Here's how setting boundaries might play out in everyday situations with the 5 types of people discussed in part 1 with complainers. Politely redirect the conversation when it turns negative. I hear what you're saying, but I'm trying to focus on what's going well today. Limit exposure to toxic conversations. I'm not in the right headspace for heavy topics right now. Let's catch up another time. With manipulators. Be clear and consistent with refusals. I understand you're in need, but I'm not able to help with that. Avoid emotional blackmail by separating guilt from decisions. It's not that I don't care, it's that I need to prioritize my health and rest. With disrespectful individuals. Address patterns, not isolated events. I've noticed that my opinions often get dismissed. It makes me feel unvalued. Reinforce your boundaries when they're crossed. If you continue to speak to me this way, I'll need to step away from the conversation. With envious people. Don't hide your joy. Let your confidence shine. I'm proud of how far I've come. It's okay if others don't understand. Steer away from emotionally competitive dynamics. I hope we can celebrate each other's lives without comparison. With time wasters. Choose quality over frequency. I'd rather meet less often, but have deeper conversations. Opt out of shallow interactions. I need to be intentional with my time. I hope you understand if I decline. These are not confrontations. They are clarifications. You are not attacking anyone. You are simply defining what's healthy for your soul and standing by it. How to nurture the right people in this stage of life. While it's important to recognize the people to avoid, it's equally vital to invest deeply in those who bring light, joy, and mutual respect into your life. These are the relationships that heal, elevate, and give meaning to your later years. Here's how to identify and cultivate them. 1. Seek emotional reciprocity. The most nourishing relationships in old age are those where the giving and receiving are balanced. You are not simply a caretaker, a listener, or an emotional vault. You are also heard, helped, and held. Look for people who ask about your day, who listen without interrupting, who remember what you've said. Their consistency, not just their presence, is the sign of value. 2. Choose people who respect your wisdom. Too often, aging is wrongly associated with decline rather than depth. But you have lived through decades of learning. That experience is a gift. Surround yourself with those who recognize it. The ones who seek your counsel, who invite your stories, who thank you for your perspective. These people don't just see your age, they see your worth. 3. Create intergenerational bridges. Not all fulfilling connections need to be with peers. Some of the most meaningful relationships in later life come from mentoring younger people, grandchildren, community members, or even younger friends. These bonds offer vitality, exchange of ideas, and legacy. They are not built on obligation, but on shared curiosity and mutual enrichment. 4. Prioritize depth over familiarity. Just because someone has been in your life a long time doesn't mean they deserve a front row seat. Evaluate relationships based on how they make you feel now, not how long they've been around. Be bold enough to reassign roles in your life story. Some people may move from daily contact to occasional greetings, and that's okay. Others whom you've known only a short while may become new anchors of support. The health impacts of negative relationships in old age. This isn't just about emotional comfort. The quality of your relationships has a direct impact on your physical health. Studies from Harvard's 80-year longitudinal study on adult development have shown that loneliness and toxic social ties are strong predictors of early mortality, cognitive decline, and chronic illness. In contrast, positive relationships can buffer against depression, dementia, and even cardiovascular disease. Furthermore, research from the National Institute on Aging confirms that social well-being is a core determinant of aging well. It affects how we manage stress, how our immune system functions, and how resilient we are to life's inevitable losses. So this isn't just about avoiding drama. It's about protecting your brain, your heart, your sleep, and your vitality. Part 3, releasing guilt, reclaiming autonomy, and building a circle of peace. By the time you reach your 70s or beyond, you've likely spent decades giving your time, your energy, your compassion, your patience. For many seniors, the hardest part of change is not the decision itself, but the guilt that follows. It's the feeling that by stepping back, you're being selfish, that by saying no, you're turning your back on people you once held close. But this guilt's often misplaced. It arises not from wrongdoing, but from a deep-seated habit of overextension. And if left unchallenged, it becomes a quiet force that keeps you in unhealthy dynamics long past their expiration date. Let's be clear, setting boundaries in old age is not selfish, it is self-respect. The truth is, you are not rejecting people. You are reclaiming the parts of yourself you've silenced for too long. Your peace, your preferences, your priorities, they matter. They are not a burden. They are the compass by which you should now navigate. It's time to shed the guilt and begin living with intention. How to restructure long-term relationships. With grace. Changing the nature of relationships, especially those that have lasted for decades, is never easy. But it is entirely possible to do so without resentment, drama, or rupture. Here are several respectful ways to adjust boundaries while preserving your dignity and the integrity of your relationships. 1. Reduce frequency, not affection. Sometimes you don't need to cut people out. You simply need to change how often you interact. A weekly obligation can become a monthly check-in. A draining phone call can become a thoughtful letter or message. Love can remain even as frequency shifts. 2. Communicate with calm, not accusations. Speak from your own experience. Use I statements, not blame. I've realized I need more quiet time in my schedule. I'm focusing on my health and limiting stressful interactions. This makes it about your needs, not their faults. 3. Set predictable boundaries. Ambiguity breeds confusion. Be specific. I'm available for a short call on Sunday afternoons. I no longer handle last-minute requests. I need advance notice. This helps others understand your limits and avoids misunderstandings. 4. Leave space for change, but don't wait for it. Hope for improvement. Yes, but don't hinge your peace on someone else's personal growth. Let them meet you in your new rhythm or not. You are not responsible for their emotional work. How to handle pushback, especially from family. Expect resistance. It's normal. People accustomed to access, control, or emotional dependency will not easily adjust to your new boundaries. They may use phrases like, "You've changed. You never used to say no. I guess I'm not important anymore." These comments are designed to trigger your guilt reflex. But rather than reacting emotionally, remind yourself of your truth. I've changed because I've grown. My needs matter too. This decision protects my health and peace. Not everyone will understand. That's okay. Clarity is more important than consensus. And remember, no one, not even your adult children, has a license to continually drain your spirit under the guise of family obligation. Relationships are not unconditional if one side is constantly being emptied. Creating a circle of peace, who to welcome in. As you release what no longer serves you, your next step is to curate a supportive, life-giving community. This doesn't require dozens of friends. Just a few authentic connections can transform your day-to-day life. Seek out the encourager, someone who sees your worth and reminds you of it often. The listener, someone who gives you space to speak without judgment or interruption. The learner, a younger person who values your perspective and invites your mentorship. The companion, someone who enjoys simple things with you, meals, walks, silence. The protector, someone who defends your dignity when others forget it. These roles may be filled by family, old friends, community members, or even new acquaintances. What matters is not how long you've known them, but how they make you feel safe, seen, respected, and restored. A personal reflection on peace and power. There is a remarkable freedom that comes in later life, not because your days are quieter, but because your wisdom is louder. You've earned this wisdom not through ease, but through endurance. And with it comes the authority to choose your environment. You are not here to shrink, you are here to rise above guilt that was never yours to carry, to rise above relationships that confuse sacrifice with submission, to rise into a life of grace, simplicity, and presence. Let your final decades not be a slow fade, but a powerful distillation. Fewer people, deeper bonds, less noise, more meaning. You don't need to please everyone. You need to please your own spirit. And if in choosing peace you lose a few people, let them go. They were never aligned with your purpose in this sacred season. Final thoughts: it's never too late to redefine your circle. Whether you're 60, 70, 80, or older, the opportunity to redefine your life is still within reach. This is not a time of ending. It is a time of refining. Let your soul lead you toward relationships that are rooted in love, mutual growth, and respect. Avoid those who constantly drain, manipulate, disrespect, or envy you, not because you're harsh, but because you are finally honest. Let your days be filled with those who help you breathe easier, laugh deeper, and walk more freely. You've earned it. If this message resonates with you, support this journey of self-respect and conscious aging by liking this article and subscribing to our channel, Longevity Secret. Together, let's build a life of dignity, strength, and true connection.